Hey everyone, I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today. We've got a really special explainer lined up for you based on an exclusive presentation from Dr. Christophe Delong and Kinexa. We are going to be taking a deep dive into something that is just truly mesmerizing, the clinical biomechanical analysis of elite figure skating. Whether you are a sports medicine professional or just a superfan prepping for the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina, consider this your ultimate masterclass. We're going to literally dissect the human body in motion, breaking down exactly how these incredible athletes defy gravity and essentially turn themselves into machines of pure physics in a fraction of a second. Okay, let's dive right in. Here's the clinical roadmap we'll be following today. We're going to start with the anatomy of the salcho, look at the physiological systems, explore the four-revolution frontier, tackle the axle challenge, do a direct salcho versus axle comparison, and finish up by prepping your expert eye for the 2026 Olympics. Right. Starting off with Section 1, the anatomy of the salchow, also known as the pure edge jump. To truly understand the absolute extremes of the sport, we really need a baseline. And for us, that's the salchow. It was invented over a century ago, but it remains one of the most emblematic jumps in the sport, a totally textbook case for analyzing how movement is deconstructed. Now, what's really interesting here is the specific visual marker right before takeoff. When a skater enters a salcho, they arrive backward on an inside edge. Then, the free leg makes this massive, circular sweeping motion forward. That sweeping motion is what gives the impulse, and just before they actually leave the ice, the legs form a visible V, or a small circle. It honestly looks almost like a scissor movement right there on the ice. By definition, you see, the salchow is an edge jump. It's not a toe jump. The skater never actually strikes the ice with their toe pick to launch. Instead, it's like they're drawing a deep J shape on the ice. And it's just this perfect demonstration of the law of conservation of angular momentum. The skater throws that free leg to create rotation, and then pulls everything super tight to the body's axis to accelerate the spin. It is this beautiful, gliding motion that just seamlessly transforms right into flight. Moving right along to Section 2, the physiological systems. Think of this as a symphony of the human body. So, what is actually happening inside the skater when they pull this off? Imagine we're looking at a dynamic MRI scan of their body in motion. The salchow relies heavily on precise sensation rather than just brute force. It activates this whole symphony of interconnected systems. The neurosensory system, especially the inner ear, is managing intense angular acceleration while the foot is still on the ice. Then you have the muscular system, using the hips and glutes as a sort of muscular sling to swing that free leg. Biomechanically, the ankle has to act as a perfect hinge. It's got to be flexible for the bend, but rigid as steel for the actual launch. And finally, the cognitive system steps in. Through procedural memory that's literally stored deep in the basal ganglia, the movement isn't something they think about anymore. It's just an automatic millimeter-perfect motor program that fires off after thousands of hours of repetition. Let's see how this builds chronologically. The next time you watch a skater, I want you to look for this exact sequence. First up is the neurophase, their gaze fixes, preparing their senses, and that edge anchors deeply into the ice. Second is the muscular phase. The free leg sweeps through space, generating all that vital rotational energy. And finally, the physical phase. The exact moment they leave the ice, the body regroups into this incredibly rigid, perfectly straight line to drastically accelerate the rotation. It's this fascinating split-second passage from pure fluidity to rigid acceleration and then right back to the relaxed glide of the landing. Which brings us to Section 3, the four-revolution frontier. This is the elite standard of the sport today. In modern figure skating, just mastering those phases we talked about isn't enough, not unless you can do it 4 times in the air. To execute 4 revolutions, athletes are literally fighting a war against gravity and time. Just look at this number, 0.8. That represents the maximum seconds of hang time a skater has in the air. Let that sink in. In under 1 single second, they have to launch, spin 4 complete times, untwist, spot their landing, and absorb the impact. It is a crazy mathematical equation balanced on a knife's edge. Now, what I find absolutely fascinating is the biological and biomechanical divergence between male and female athletes when they tackle this frontier. For the boys, it's very often about explosive power. They're using fast-twitch, type 2B muscle fibers to launch higher, essentially compensating for a higher center of mass with channeled brute force. The girls, on the other hand, conquer the quad entirely differently. They generally possess superior angular velocity because of a narrower silhouette once they group up in the air. Plus, studies actually suggest they have advanced vestibular stability, which allows them to manage that hyperfast axis incredibly effectively. It's just a brilliant showcase of using completely different physiological tools to achieve the exact same breathtaking result. But what happens when we take everything we just learned about natural momentum and completely turn it on its head? That brings us to a pivotal question. Why does the axle jump change the entire neurophysiology of the skater? That leads us into Section 4, the axle challenge, the ultimate rule breaker. The axle is basically the holy grail of skating. It's what separates the excellent from the absolute legends. It's the ultimate rule breaker because, unlike the salchow, the axle is the only jump that takes off moving forward. And because every single jump lands moving backward, an axle always requires an extra half rotation. So a triple axle is actually 3.5 turns. This creates an immense, and I mean immense, psychological and visual conflict. Human survival instincts are screaming at us not to leap blindly forward into empty space at high speeds. The nervous system literally has to inhibit our built-in protective reflexes just to even attempt it. And the physical toll? That's where this number 8 comes in. Because the axle transforms violent forward momentum straight into rotational height, the landing forces are just colossal. We are talking about 8 to 10 times a skater's body weight in G-forces crashing down onto a single ankle and Achilles tendon the moment they land. Without a doubt, it is the most traumatizing jump for the physical body. Okay, Section 5, the salchow versus the axle. Let's look at the clinical comparison. For all you clinicians, coaches, and analysts watching, let's consolidate this. A side-by-side analysis reveals distinctly opposite biomechanical demands. The salchow takes off backward, the axle takes off forward. The salchow is this smooth, pendulum-like push. The axle is a violent, almost pole vault-style projection jump. Neurologically, the salchow skater is managing centrifugal force, while the axle skater is battling intense visual conflict as their brain rapidly recalculates spatial coordinates from forward to backward mid-air. And muscularly, the salchow relies on the hips and glutes to get that rotation, while the axle demands extreme, explosive vertical power from the quadriceps and the cows. Philosophically speaking, there's just a massive difference between the two. The salchow, our edge jump, is a continuous, flowing spiral that just happens to elevate. You accompany the rotation. The axle, our projection jump, is a sudden, violent break in trajectory. You sprint forward and then suddenly convert all that pure frontal energy into a vertical screw. It is a highly aggressive disruption of momentum. Finally, we've reached Section 6, Target 2026 Olympics. Let's prop that expert eye of yours. Now that you're armed with this clinical understanding, it's time to actually put it to use. When you're watching the athletes at the Mediolanum Forum in 2026, use this new expert gaze. Don't just watch them when they're up in the air, watch the preparation. For the salchow, I want you to look for that quiet, almost effortless backward pivot. The legs drawing that V that just magically turns into a perfect ascending spiral. But for the axle, watch for the skater taking a really long, eerily calm forward glide on one foot. When you see that, hold your breath. They are internally calculating a 4-dimensional trajectory right before they launch into that explosive leap. Dr. Delong's entire analysis really boils down to this one singular truth. Elite figure skating is the ultimate art of using all the body's resources to defy gravity. Every single muscle fiber, every tiny vestibular fluid shift in the ear, and every deep brain procedural memory has to align perfectly to overcome the harsh laws of physics, even if it's just for 0.8 seconds. Which leaves us with one final, pretty thrilling thought. The quadruple is today's standard, for sure, but the quintuple, the 5-revolution jump, that is the new sound barrier. It is mathematically possible, but it sits right at the absolute limit of human structural tolerance. So as we head toward Milano Cortina in 2026, the stage is set. Which athlete's neuromuscular coordination is going to be flawless enough to break through that frontier? Keep your eyes on the ice, and I guess we'll find out together. Thanks so much for joining me on this incredible clinical journey.